Hello and welcome to Community Chats. I'm your host, Aley Hammer, and today we're joined with Michael Kong, the CEO from Fantom. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today. Can you start by telling our audience a little bit about Fantom?
Thank you very much for having me on the show. I really appreciate the time and the opportunity. So a bit about Fantom. So Fantom is a technology platform that consists of its own, what we call layer one distributed ledger technology. So a distributed ledger is essentially a shared ledger amongst different nodes in the system that all have to come to a consensus or agreement as to like the ordering of transactions. So it's basically like an audit record of all transactions between all accounts in the network. So what we've done at Fantom is we've developed our own distributed ledger technology. It's called based on ABFT principles, or saying asynchronous business need fault tolerance. Basically, it's a way to asynchronously communicate between nodes and to get that ordering of transactions done, which is what's really, really important. And that's kind of what's different from, say, Bitcoin and Ethereum, where you got to wait for the next block to be mined, for a transaction to be included in that block in order to be part of the network. In our case, as soon as the transaction enters into the network, it automatically starts to get confirmed by the nodes within that network. So we've developed this technology from scratch. We've released a number of technical papers and more technical papers coming out with a series of improvements to make it a lot better over time. And it's been in production since the end of 2019. So it's been running for a bit more than a year and a half now. And that's the layer one technology is connected to technology on top as well. So on top of the DLT, we have the Ethereum virtual machine, and this is software that basically processes smart contracts. And on top of the virtual machine, we've got what are known as like APIs or different tool sets that developers can use to build what we call smart contracts or applications on top of the network. So these APIs consist of like GraphQL and other technologies. RPC servers allow people to communicate to the network. So essentially the way people deploy applications in our network is the same on Ethereum. And the sort of applications people tend to deploy are what are known as decentralized applications. So they're called decentralized because the code is all run by the nodes that confirm transactions in the network. It's not run by a single third party or individual. So we like to say that the system is trustless, that people can interact with one another in a peer-to-peer manner according to the code that's deployed on the network, which makes it very, very interesting. And there's a lot of use cases associated with it. And more on the project side, it's really a community-run project. So it's a project that has attracted thousands of users and developers that build apps continuously on the network that people use as well. It's a platform that's really run by the community, because it's a community that kind of determines the direction of the platform as well. And also is just technology that's out there that anybody from around the world can join and leave at any point in time.
Wow, I mean, cryptocurrency is so topical at the moment, so it's really great to hear from someone who's at the forefront of the industry. And Michael, I'm aware that you guys are native to AWS, but how exactly are you using the cloud, and why did you choose AWS?
So AWS has really been an essential part of our journey, even before we deployed the technology in production. So when we were developing the platform beforehand, come up with the concepts and then playing around with the code a bit and really like engineering the solution, we use AWS right from the beginning. So the sort of servers that and technology we use from AWS to this day include things like Elastic Compute Cloud 2, Route 53 for our DNS management, as well as like various DDoS and security tools as well as S3 bucket management as well has been incredibly useful. And the technology has been great for a number of reasons. One of them being is that it's just like really reliable. It almost virtually never goes down. So it's technology that we can rely on to develop and also run our infrastructure on going forward as well. I mean, right now we're running a series of validators that help confirm transactions on the network on AWS. There are not members of the community that are also using AWS to run these validators. And also we use validators to run what are known as RPC servers. So these are servers that basically people communicate to, like developers, and they send requests through these servers. They get processed by the network. And it's just been very reliable for us. And another really great feature of AWS is their identity access management. So that really allows us to get permissions on a very, very granular level for each of the components that we use AWS for. And there's different levels of permissions for those different components. So it's just really secure because it allows us to give developers just the right permissions that we need to give them, no more, no less. And that's a really useful feature that other cloud providers don't necessarily have to the same degree. So, it's been great using AWS, and we're just going to keep using it going forward. And also another benefit is that because AWS is really big, there's a lot of developers that already are familiar with AWS. So new developers that we hire on board as well, very often they're already familiar with AWS. They've used it to some extent, so it's really easy for them to get familiar with the infrastructure that we've already deployed as a result. So for those reasons, it's been incredibly helpful for us.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that AWS is easier to use compared to some other service providers. And Michael, you guys have experienced hypergrowth in the last 4 months. It's insane. You've grown at 30,000%. I mean, this is just incredible. So can you tell us a little bit about how you've managed this hypergrowth?
Yeah, so we managed this hypergrowth, I guess, kind of on the technology side and also more on the business development, marketing, or community management side of things as well. So more on the technology side, as I mentioned before, having reliable infrastructure is very necessary, and that's what AWS has helped us to do. And the way that we've managed this growth is by continuously, basically horizontally scaling up our servers, particularly these RPC servers that connect to the network. So, we've been getting increasing number of requests, almost like exponential growth. We've had some hiccups on the way where, we didn't have enough servers, enough capacity, and servers went down as a result. So we've really tried to horizontally scale out the technology and also push forward a series of upgrades as well to make the underlying consensus a lot more efficient. So, for example, in April, we launched a big upgrade called Go-Opera. Now, basically made it only take about 1 second to confirm a transaction, what we like to call time to finality in the network, and also allows the network to process thousands of these EVM-based transactions per second as well. So by implementing these upgrades that we're continuously doing over a period of time on an iterative basis, it really helps scale up and be able to handle the sort of user growth we've been getting in the past few months, which has been pretty crazy, to be honest.
It's incredible. I mean, when I'm thinking back to, you told me, you started just in 2019. That's some serious growth in just, a short amount of time. So, Michael, I also wanted to ask you, because there's so many different cryptocurrencies out there at the moment, but you guys are the 60th largest project in the whole entire world out of 10,000. That's insane. So what do you think sets you apart from the other options out there? Because from the sounds of it, to me, it's like this real community that's really fueling all the success. Yeah. But what do you think's driving it?
I think there's a few things that are driving it. So one thing on the technology side is what we managed to develop. So I think what we managed to develop is quite unique because it's a permissionless, open source, leaderless network. And what do I mean by these kind of jargon terms? Well, permissionless, meaning that anybody can join and leave the network anywhere from around the world. There's no third-party gatekeeper. There's no centralized control that denies people access. It's really technology that's just open for anybody to use. So I think that's one thing that sticks us apart from other projects, and other ways also that we're very much community focused. So we want to support the projects that launch on our network, and we don't try and pick sides or pick favorites or try and control those projects. We're just more there trying to assist them rather than trying to control them. And also more so on the enterprise side of things, the foundation is busy working with a bunch of governments and organizations, in particular in the Central Asian region. And this is an area that not a lot of people are really working in, let alone blockchain companies or companies focusing on new technologies. But those regions, I think, have quite a lot of opportunity because they're growing, they're emerging. I know they don't necessarily have the best reputation, but they do know that they're quite behind in terms of technologies. So the technology they want to implement is not just technology that's has been implemented 10 or 20 years ago. They want to implement the latest technologies for them to be able to catch up with the rest of the world. And it might sound a bit surprising, but they do actually know quite a bit about blockchain, quite a bit about other new technologies that are emerging. And so they're quite interested in working with this new technology and to see what it can do in areas, for example, like supply chain management, in areas such as clearings and settlements of finance, in other areas such as central bank digital currencies. So there's a lot of different use cases that we're trying to work in these countries such as Pakistan, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan. And I think we have some like unique connections into those areas as well. And that really, I think on the enterprise side, that really can set us apart from other projects that are more focused, I guess, in like more familiar like jurisdictions like in the West.
Absolutely. And Michael, on this exact topic, Fantom is trying to solve some real life problems at the moment in Central Asia. So can you share a little bit more about this?
One of the pilot projects that we've recently completed was in Afghanistan, and it had to do with the certification and tracking of 80,000 items across 4 pharmaceutical products that are imported from India into Afghanistan. So we worked with a few companies, a few Indian manufacturers called Bliss GVS, which is a listed company, Navros Pharma, which is a private company. So these are the pharmaceutical manufacturers. We worked with a drug distributor in Afghanistan called Royal Star Pharma, which is one of the biggest drug distributors, and also with the Ministry of Health. And in this project, it was to solve the issue of counterfeit drugs and illegal drug shipments into Afghanistan, because about approximately 10% of drugs in Afghanistan are counterfeit, and 40% of equipment, including pharmaceutical products into Afghanistan, are imported illegally. They don't go through the usual customs process. So what we did is we worked with a technology partner called Checkit to basically label these pharmaceutical products with a QR code, and then a user could scratch off this QR code and scan using an application on their phone to get information about all sorts of details about the product, like the product's origin, the serial number, proof of authenticity, and that information is hashed and compared to what's hashed on the blockchain. And so if there's a match on what's hashed on the blockchain, it means that the dollar is authentic and it hasn't been tampered with. If there's a different hash from what's scanned on the actual product itself, it means that it's been tampered in some way, and so it's not necessarily authentic. So we successfully did that with 80,000 products. We've had a few thousand scans so far over the past couple of months since the product was released. And these pharmaceutical products were distributed across different pharmacies in Kabul. So we're talking right now with the Afghan government about rolling out such a project across, on a much larger scale, possibly with millions of different pharmaceutical projects. And because we've been successful in deploying this technology and demonstrating that it actually works, it's something that we've done, but it's something that we're trying to do in other Central Asian countries as well. So we're actively trying to implement this technology in a few other countries, and in some cases they actually were already looking at doing the sort of supply chain tracking mechanism, not just for pharmaceutical products but other products as well, because they also have similar problems in Afghanistan where there's illegal shipments, where there's counterfeit shipments, and these lead to pretty bad outcomes. So that's one sort of use case that we've been focused on. Other use cases are talking to these governments about introducing central bank digital currencies, which basically makes money a lot more efficient because you can program different functionality in it, which is quite different from just having digital cash. So being able to create smart contracts that govern rules around these currencies and allow people to program different functionality in it, depending on where it's paid and where it's transmitted to and from, is incredibly useful.
Wow, my mind is blown. You guys have achieved so much in such a short amount of time, Michael. I could speak to you for hours, and I'm learning so much just listening to you now. So thank you so much for coming on the show, and we're going to have to get you back on in a couple of months to kind of fill us in where you're up to. So thank you so much for doing so much good in Central Asia and in Australia as well. And if anyone has any questions about blockchain or Fantom, please pop them in the comment section below and we'll get back to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for the time.